Greetings, B-movie aficionados.
Hello, and welcome to Couple of Flicks. I am Tristan.
I am Nick.
And I'm Zach.
So before we get started on this episode, have either you gentlemen seen anything recently that you'd like to talk about?
I want to say I have, but not really. I have been watching HBO. They have a new show, The Outsider.
Yeah,
I've been watching that. I'm like on episode 6.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
instead of movies, I've been watching that. It's been really good so far. But they got to stick the landing though. So I'm always worried now from HBO shows.
Yeah, I definitely need to get back into television. You know, particularly HBO television. But I don't know. Last couple of years, I guess I've been getting burnt out on HBO. So, yeah, like a lot of stuff. I guess I don't know. Like that movie, that show, or that miniseries, Chernobyl. I did watch that one.
Oh, I did too. I liked that a lot. Yeah,
I did too. I think it was a little overhyped for me. Just because everybody I knew was talking about it at the time. And I find that whole situation, I find the Chernobyl case to be really interesting, and I know actually quite a bit about it. I've read a couple different books, and so like I think I was expecting that to be like a lot better than it was, but I still liked it. You know, I think I was just expecting something more comprehensive, if that makes any sense. You know, but I also understand though that when it comes to television, people are they're trying to kind of scale down and keep the stories a little bit more individual with the writing and stuff, have it be more character based. And I respect that. I think Chernobyl is good as far as that kind of thing goes. So.
Yeah, I thought it was really good, but I'm not an expert at it, so from what I heard, it was pretty accurate. And
yeah, for the most part, it was.
The shit they showed blew my mind. Like, how could people be that fucking ignorant / not caring about anyone?
Well, ignorance is the key word, I think, when it comes to for the most part, they actually did stick pretty true to the actual incident. There were some things that they kind of simplified, and some of the people they kind of changed sort of who they were and stuff. But it wasn't I mean, there was that kind of stuff you tend to have to do for narrative reasons.
Like I heard they changed like a whole team of scientists into just one scientist character.
Yeah, which I think like it makes more sense to do that kind of thing anyway, definitely, for television. So, and actually, I remember reading somewhere that Russia, I guess they weren't really satisfied with the Chernobyl miniseries, and so I was reading that they were going to make their own, but I don't know if that ever happened.
It's because they shat all over Russia on that thing.
They kind of did.
I understand, but I thought that's what happened too. Yeah.
Well, there's more than one side to every story, I guess, but
I guess.
Yeah, but I don't know, Chernobyl though, like it's kind of, I don't know, kind of unmistakable.
Yeah, like people fucked up.
Yeah, no matter which direction or which perspective you look at it, people definitely made mistakes. So. Yeah. What about you?
I did watch One Cut of the Dead.
Yeah.
Oh shit! Nice.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yes. Yeah. That's awesome. I love that.
I still have it on my watch list. I'm gonna watch it very, very soon. So I just haven't yet. But
yeah, it's on Shudder right now. If you have that.
Yeah. I can get that for that. I mean, that's not going to be a problem, I don't think. So.
Yeah, I got a free month of it, and then I saw it on there. I'm like, oh, might as well watch it.
Yeah, I think that's how I saw it.
That's pretty much how, kind of what I'm thinking I'm going to end up doing too. I just have to have a little bit more time because if I'm going to be having that for a month, there's probably going to be multiple things I'm going to want to watch on it. So.
Oh yeah, I'm considering just paying for it because I'm like, oh shit, this is on here.
A lot of people have it that I know.
It's one of the cheaper subscription services too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do want it. You got to see it so we can talk about it.
Yeah, I definitely
There's
will.
some crazy good shit in it I loved.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it. I did see the new Birds of Prey movie. I don't know. It wasn't really my kind of movie, I guess. Like, I enjoyed it, and I thought it was like entertaining. But after it was over, I kind of just forgot about it after about an hour. Like, it didn't really stick with me. I don't know. The villain was kind of generic. I mean, it was better than Suicide Squad, in my opinion. I think
It's not hard.
Yeah, I mean, for like my biggest issue with Suicide Squad was just the whole narrative felt so scattered, you know.
Yeah,
and
didn't feel like a plot at all.
Yeah.
Just scenes of them introducing the characters.
For about half the movie, it felt like that. Yeah, and like basically just this group of bad people somehow like get thrown into this situation where they sort of vaguely have an understanding of what they're supposed to be doing, and then somehow they end up saving the world. That's basically what Suicide Squad is.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt pretty much about as lost as the characters. So, but this was a lot more focused. And I respect that Warner Brothers / DC is kind of letting their filmmakers sort of make their own sort of movies. Like, they're not trying to make some kind of complex like cinematic universe anymore. They're not trying to, you know, they don't like just give these filmmakers a set of guidelines that they have to abide by, you know, like Disney does. They actually do kind of give them some freedom, which results in some pretty decent films like Shazam and Joker. But this I kind of felt was sort of like on the lesser scale. It just wasn't quite what I wanted, I guess. I feel like they didn't really take advantage of the fact that they got an R rating. Didn't really feel that way to me. It kind of felt pretty safe still. And I don't know, like visually there were some cool things going on. I like the acting. I think they were trying to combine the comic feel with the grittiness and all that stuff, and they did a pretty decent job at it for a while, but I don't know. Then I kind of got tired of it, and now I can barely remember what happened in it. So I guess it just ultimately, like, it wasn't my kind of movie. I could see why some folks would like it, but it just didn't quite click with me, I guess, you know.
Yeah, I like Margot Robbie. She's cool. And she seems to like that role.
If you like Margot Robbie, I think you'll like this movie. I think Margot Robbie is pretty good, but I guess I don't know. I'm not really that interested in the character of Harley Quinn, to be honest. Like, I know a lot of people are. And I think a lot of those folks who are fans of hers are going to really like it. Yeah, I think if you like Margot Robbie, though, as an actress, it is worth seeing. She does do a good job in it. So.
Yeah, maybe.
Wait till it comes out on DVD.
Yeah,
Definitely.
Cool. Yeah, sounds good. All right, so let's get started. So we're starting with your pick.
My pick. All right. It was Stop or My Mom Will Shoot, a Sylvester Stallone buddy cop movie. This is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And Sylvester's his buddy cop was his mother.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the mom comes in from the title.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was fairly 90s buddy cop, run of the mill as far as you can go, straight down the middle. I wasn't too impressed. I kind of wanted the mom to be more badass, but it was just kind of her bumbling around, getting in the way.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but it was okay. I mean,
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
yeah.
You know, as far as Sylvester Stallone, like when I hear the phrase Sylvester Stallone comedy, I mean, my mind goes to a pretty dark place because I don't know, he's not very funny as a person. Like, I feel like when he does make a comedy, it kind of feels like the movie, like that the audience is kind of supposed to be laughing at him rather than at. Like it kind of felt like a 90-minute excuse to just kind of make fun of Sylvester Stallone, you know, like which maybe, I mean, if kudos to him if he's cool with taking a joke, and being sort of I mean, the whole movie, it's this
That's
woman.
what I felt this movie was. Yeah.
Yeah.
He felt fine with it, and
Yeah.
I thought he actually did pretty well in this.
Yeah.
So they were pretty much shitting on him the whole time, and it was funny.
Yeah. I guess there were parts where I did feel kind of bad for him though, because she kept on infantilizing him. I think that's the way I say it. Yeah. And
yeah.
It kind, I don't know. There were points where it sort of kind of became overboard for me, like where she, like, it just, I don't know. I felt humiliated for him for some reason.
I did a bunch of times. Yeah. Like when he was going to pick her up in the very beginning.
Yeah.
Like everyone was just looking at him and laughing. And,
yeah, because she'd already.
Yeah, I used to be a bedwetter too.
She showed everybody on the plane his baby pictures.
Yeah, it was giving all those funny little embarrassing stories when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Shit.
And then they all see him and they're laughing at him, like, because now it's like, oh. So most of the film is just people laughing at Sylvester Stallone,
Yep.
And his mom is played by Estelle Getty, who most people I think are familiar with her because she was in the Golden Girls.
Yep.
And I loved her on that show. She wasn't really the same kind of character in this, though. I felt
no.
On that show she was a lot more fun, and in this she was just very strict and sort of getting in the way a lot, like you said.
That bugged me. She just kept getting in the way.
Yeah, she kind of, and like you could actually kind of understand why he was annoyed by her.
Yeah, it made no sense that she was being crazy.
Yeah,
being in the way, like.
Yeah.
What, like, one of the funny scenes I liked was when they drove up to that jumper in the beginning.
Yeah.
She was talking him down and shit, and
yeah,
the jumper came in and he was like talking to the police as he's going on the stairs, like, oh, that guy needs help.
Yeah, he's like,
it was Sly out down there, like about to jump himself.
Yeah, like suddenly it, like, the roles are reversed and suddenly it's Sylvester Stallone looks like the one who is in more need of help.
Yeah.
Like this guy who almost committed suicide looks at him and is like, oh man, I'm glad that I thought I had it bad. I thought,
I thought my mom was bad.
Yeah. And so, like, I mean, it's a pretty far-fetched joke, but it worked because of how stupid it was. I mean, because it was just like, oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I think that, like, I can picture some people being able to relate to this movie just because, like, I think a lot of people have overbearing parental figures, whether it be a mom or a dad.
Like my mom. That's what I related pretty well.
Yeah.
My mom's nice and shit, of course, but
yeah.
Like when that one scene he was talking about how he ate a shit ton of breakfast and he was feeling like shit.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I can relate to that. My mom always tries to force feed me food even when I'm not hungry. He even said, like, oh, wow, you must have been hungry. And he's like, no, I wasn't hungry at all.
Yeah.
And what? There's a line, well, her love is driving me nuts. And I was like, oh, Jesus, I can relate to that. Because my mom loves to smother me, too.
Yeah. I've always... for me, it's always sort of a grass is always greener type of situation. Because, like, for me, it's like, my mom was like, I woke up in the morning, my mom's like, oh, just have a piece of toast or something, Yeah. I mean, I think that, like, some moms have different priorities than other moms, as do dads. And I always appreciate when parents have plentiful amounts of food for breakfast, and they're feeding their kid a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But I would imagine if I were that kind of kid, though, whose parents were always feeding me all the time, I would probably feel pretty burnt out by it. So.
Yeah.
You
don't hate it, but it's just annoying.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
And I think,
leave me alone.
And I think ultimately that's kind of what this movie's about. It's Sylvester Stallone. He doesn't necessarily dislike his mother. He just feels like when she's around, he can't be as independent.
Yeah.
Yep. And so maybe in a way that's kind of why I felt really bad for him, is that, like, suddenly, all this confidence that he had as a police officer, like, once his mom comes around, like, it's gone, and suddenly it's almost like he needs help all the time. Like, she gives him dating advice that actually works miraculously,
until he lets his girlfriend know that it was his mom's advice.
Yeah.
Every single time he's like, no, my mom said that.
Yeah.
And then she just slaps him.
And I don't know why he kept on doing that. Like,
He did
it's
it
like,
a few times.
if it's working and if it's like something that that's meaningful, and it's going well for you and you're willing to keep going in that direction, like why say, oh, I'm only doing this because my mom told me to. Like, that's so stupid. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah.
So maybe we should talk about the plot.
Okay. I guess I don't know much of the plot really.
Well,
It was just
okay. Basically,
what I gathered. It was his mom fucked up his gun by cleaning it with like bleach and Clorox. No, that'll explode if I try and shoot it. So she goes off and tries to buy him a new one off of a black market guy illegally.
Kind of some arms dealer, like just in the middle of the street.
Yeah, which I guess he stole it from some type of mob boss. That guy that she bought the gun off stole it from a mob boss who was trying to get it back.
Yeah. And then she witnesses a hit.
Yeah, she witnesses the hit because they were trying to get those guns back. Yeah. And they killed, some of the people that stole the guns. Yeah. So she witnesses the hit. And from then on, it's like, they're trying to get info and whatever out of her.
Mm. And she hides information from the police, which is not smart.
No, she's not smart.
But she does it with the intention of bettering Sylvester Stallone's character's potential, like to solve the case and all that stuff, because she wants to help him as a police officer, and it ends up working. So I guess, even though in my opinion, it was not really the right way to go about things, somehow the plot ends up miraculously working in her favor. So good for her.
Like almost everything she does just works out.
Yeah.
Even though it probably shouldn't.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty cheap, cheesy comedy. It's pretty lowbrow. Sylvester Stallone gets naked a couple times in it, which, good for him for being somebody who was at that age and comfortable with his body.
He got fully naked? I don't remember that.
There was the shower scene where, like,
I remember that.
Yeah. And then I know that there was something else, and it was like a brief thing, but I don't remember. But yeah, it's pretty cheesy. And of course the scene does eventually come when the title.
Yes. I was waiting for it the whole time since I hit play.
Yeah. Well, was it worth the wait?
Not really. It was.
First of all, he doesn't even deliver the line very well.
No.
Like, not that it's a very easy line to deliver.
He first says it because he's like, stop, because he's gonna make it, like, he's trying to make him freeze. Yeah. And then he's out of bullets or something. Then his mom comes around the corner or something, and he's like, wait, stop, or my mom will shoot.
My mom will shoot. And then she shoots and misses. So it was pointless. Like, that title doesn't even end up having anything to do with the plot. It's just a punchline,
That's what did disappoint me about the movie, was I wanted her to be a badass, like a good shot or something out of left field.
Yeah.
Just
and
instead down all the bad guys easy.
And instead she was this bumbling elderly mother who was smothering, and that's pretty much her only characteristic.
Yep.
I mean, Sylvester Stallone's character has kind of a quasi relationship with the police chief, or one of the female, like the woman who's in charge of his district. I don't remember what her name is, but
she dumps him in the beginning because he was on the phone all night trying to stop his mom from coming.
Yeah.
I didn't, because that was like during the first credit, or I don't know, real early, when he was just on the phone a crap ton. I don't know we didn't know who he was calling.
Yeah.
So it was confusing.
It was a little confusing. The film doesn't really make it clear, like, whether he's in a relationship with another person or whatever, but he says, I would call my mom, and she's like, your mom? That's like she's assuming that he's cheating on her, and
Yeah.
but in reality, it turns out he actually was trying to call his mom. Funny. There's an action set piece that takes place at the end, which was kind of anticlimactic. Somebody gets shot, but
Oh yeah. After he like ran the plane off the.
yeah. Oh, spoilers, by the way.
Yes, spoilers. He ran. There was just like a chase scene of some sort. He ran the plane off the, I don't know, the track or whatever. And eventually, his mom shot somebody.
Yeah, that was it. She actually doesn't miss.
Yeah, she finally shot him. And Sylvester was just like, "You shot him." No shit.
Yeah. And then she heads home.
And one thing I noticed with that gun at the very end that she shot him with, it had that painted orange thing on the sight.
Yeah.
So,
which was kind of a curious goof,
yeah,
I must say.
Because it was pretty obvious.
Yeah. What were your thoughts on it?
I hated it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't find it funny. I just found it really fucking annoying.
I would pretty much agree.
Mm-hmm.
Not the worst 90s comedy I've seen, but far from any of the ones that I even find halfway funny.
Yeah.
I mean, it was shot well, like a typical 90s action movie, but didn't do it for me.
Didn't do much at all.
Yeah. It was just kind of a bland comedy. Like, it's probably funny to people who've never seen a comedy before.
First comedy.
Yeah, if this is your first comedy, then you might enjoy it. Although, I don't know, enjoying, like, that's pretty far-fetched. Like, most of the time when I laughed watching this movie, it wasn't because of anything funny. It was really more because, like, it was so stupid,
Yep,
that,
definitely.
like, I laughed more at the fact that they even attempted to make a funny joke or have a funny, like, sight gag or something like that than I did, like, the actual movie itself. So,
I think I laughed once, and that was at the breakfast joke.
yeah,
Oh, yeah. That was good.
that was funny. I laughed. Oh, yeah.
One I laughed at was the mom. I forget. She'd said did something gun related, and she was like, "I'll be back."
Oh, yeah.
And she was like, "What? Cops say that, right?" And Sylvester was like, "Cops don't say that. Terminators do."
Oh, did you know that apparently Schwarzenegger tricked Stallone into taking this role?
Oh, nice.
That's funny.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Oh.
That's great. Well, I mean, because I'm trying to picture what this movie would be like with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I actually think it'd be worse. Like, I think Sylvester Stallone, I'm not really crazy about Arnold Schwarzenegger's comedies, and I'm not really crazy about any of the comedies that I've seen of Sylvester Stallone either. But at least with this movie, like, Sylvester Stallone doesn't have to really give a lot of, like, he doesn't have to say a lot of jokes or do a lot of funny stuff.
Yeah.
He's mostly just the butt of all the jokes, and that's pretty much it. Whereas Schwarzenegger in movies like Junior, Twins, and Jingle All the Way, Schwarzenegger, like, he's actually attempting to make jokes and be funny. And
I think the only comedy Schwarzenegger I like is Kindergarten Cop.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I think that's
one.
about the only one.
Yeah, I haven't seen that for a long, long time. I saw it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I remember it scared the crap out of me, but but I'm sure if I watched it now, I'd probably enjoy it. Or maybe
I don't know. I don't know if it holds up, but I remember liking it.
Yeah. Well, apparently there's a sequel.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has Dolph Lundgren in it. So, yeah.
Yeah. No thanks.
Can't imagine that one even being remotely enjoyable. Yeah, overall, Stop or My Mom Will Shoot is not that good.
No. No.
I'd probably give it like 1. I mean, if I gave Kazam a 1 and Christmas Story 2 a 1, I'd have to give this a 1 as well.
I don't remember what I gave Kazam. I'll give this one a 1.5.
Okay.
I had a chuckle or two, so I'll give it a half.
Yeah, I gave it 1.5.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably not one I'm ever gonna watch again. Like,
No.
Not even if I'm having a Stallone marathon. Even if like some people are there's better Stallone comedies than this. Like Rhinestone is a terrible, terrible movie, but I think that's actually funnier than this, which is shocking because Rhinestone was about as funny as watching somebody get brain surgery. Yeah. But I having said that, I'd never seen Stop or My Mom Will Shoot before, and it's another Stallone film I can check off the list.
Yep.
Not as bad as Avenging Angelo, in my opinion, but not good.
Nah.
Okay, so the next film was your choice.
Yeah. So my choice was Ticks. It's a creature feature starring Seth Green and Alfonso Riviera as the complete opposite of Carlton.
Yep. I had no idea.
Yeah.
He was in this at all.
I didn't either.
Same.
I didn't know Seth Green was in it either.
Yeah.
So basically is a group of teenagers from the city going to the woods for I don't understand why they were there. I didn't really catch that.
Yeah, I think it's because they were all kind of troubled kids, and so it was like a special sort of what do you call it? Like a special group. It was like a nature trail sort of like a couple day like camping nature trail type of thing for like sort of like for like rehabilitation purposes is kind of what I gathered. Just because like the way the counselors were describing the kids, almost like they were like mental patients or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, Seth Green's character might as well have been.
yeah.
I don't know what the fuck is wrong with him.
Yeah. I mean, they were all kind of troubled and odd and weird, sort of. Some of them had sociopathic tendencies, I got the impression.
Yeah.
Definitely some aggression issues. I mean, right off the bat, he like gets dropped off and ends up having sort of a one-off with this other gentleman. Like,
yeah, and why did they get picked up from under a bridge?
I don't know. I was
yeah.
wondering what. I didn't know what was going on. I was in those.
Yeah. But anyway, so they travel out to the wilderness, and then what transpires?
Typical creature feature. There's mutant ticks caused by marijuana steroids.
Yeah. So definitely another thing that makes this pretty 90s.
Oh, yeah.
It's the whole green scare.
Yeah, and the appearance of Clint Howard.
Yeah, which I feel like we saw him in something else, another movie that we watched.
Yeah, he was in Carnosaur.
Yeah. And Clint Howard, he's probably been in about 1 billion movies, so we're probably gonna end up.
Guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, oh,
him again.
The first thing I was like, oh, Seth Green, yeah. Oh, Carlton, yeah. Oh, goofy looking guy, yeah.
Yeah, Clint Howard. He.
I don't remember his name ever, but I know his face.
Well, we're probably gonna end up seeing him in a lot more movies because he's in a lot of B movies.
Oh yeah.
But anyway.
Oh, yeah, just your typical creature feature stuff happens from there.
Yeah.
Get attacked by these things.
Yeah. A dog gets killed.
Yeah. That kind of freaked me out when it was like jumping around.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when I was first watching this, I was just grossed out because I hate ticks.
Yeah.
So a lot of the first like half an hour of the movie, I was just like, oh, this
Yeah.
is disgusting and creeping me out. It's gross.
Yeah.
The practical effects are really good.
Yeah,
I
I
was
was
surprised.
surprised.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was surprised too. Like obviously like they were cheesy, but in a cool way. Like it was done sort of in a stylish. Like I like the color of them. I like the shape and everything. And I don't really get grossed out by ticks. I'm actually a master tick removalist, but I would describe these things not quite like ticks. I'd say these are more like, I don't know, some kind of evolved form, perhaps of the same like species, perhaps.
Like a tick spider hybrid kind of.
Yeah, it was kind of more of a tick. They were kind of more like tick spiders, like the way they look like ticks, but then they moved like spiders, so which was like the heck, like they scampered,
Yeah.
which the puppetry was pretty good too. Actually.
Yeah, I was surprised with the puppetry. Like they were crawling around, and I didn't really notice like any type of fucking around.
Yeah, usually you notice strings or some tubes or something like that, but in this they actually managed to, which it probably had to do with the fact that like they didn't really keep them on screen very long. Like most of the shots of the ticks were very brief, quick shots that were so quick that you probably couldn't really notice how hokey some of it looked, So I'd say as far as editing goes, like the way they show the ticks is actually pretty cool. Like, they actually do come across as genuinely threatening. They don't come across like some hokey, cheap giant, like in that movie Mosquito, which I think I've mentioned before. How the mosquito in that looks like the pipe cleaners, and like the way they hold the actual like mosquito monster up. It looks awful and hokey, and it takes you out of the movie a little bit. But this, I didn't really ever get taken out. You know? So.
I was pleasantly surprised with this movie.
Me too.
I thought it was like,
same here.
I thought it was gonna be bad from the first like 30 minutes we watched. I was like, oh no, because Carlton's acting was just poop.
Yeah.
Carlton, I haven't seen him act in anything good except for being Carlton. I want to say everything I've seen him in besides, The Fresh Prince, he's been pretty shitty actor.
Yeah.
Including this.
And I felt really bad for his character. Like,
right. Of course, he's the only one to die.
Yeah, that kind of bummed me out. I didn't like the way he died either. That was horrible. I mean, that was like the worst. It looked so painful, and just I didn't feel like he deserved that, especially after his dog had gotten killed. Like,
right?
It was just like they really heaped on the abuse toward that character. I feel like just a little bit too much.
Yeah. Damn.
But actually, what was especially interesting about this film was how few people even got killed in it.
Yeah, I was like near the end. I was like, wow, not many people are dying in this.
Yeah, like
I thought the body count was going to be higher.
Yeah, I was kind of. It was kind of a pleasant surprise in a way, because like I actually did kind of care about some of these characters, and even though, and it actually was another one of those movies like that movie about the killer moss in the bathroom that I can never remember the name of. Whatever it's called. It's this movie. Basically, it's another movie where characters actually take chances, some of which are probably pretty stupid chances, and then those chances actually end up working out. Like these characters, like they find out pretty fast that these ticks don't like fire, and then unfortunately, but then unfortunately a forest fire ends up occurring, which, so we should probably talk about those characters. So aside from the teenagers and the counselors, there's some locals.
Oh yeah.
And they end up kind of becoming the antagonists a little bit. Like they at one point, don't they like take them hostage basically?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, because that was one thing I was like confused at first, and I was like, oh, okay, they're just throwing random shit at the wall, but then it's of course started to make sense because they were the marijuana growers that kind of were responsible for the tick mutants.
Yeah.
But I don't know why they started taking hostage Carlton.
Yeah, that was kind of pointless at that
Like he
point.
was already getting fucked up by ticks, so
Yeah.
they just started beating the shit out of him.
Yeah, and he was
while
all
on the
mutated and
ground. I was like, why are you like?
it was awful. Wait, so I guess in a way, since he kind of morphs in that very kind of a Cronenberg-esque sequence where he basically morphs into a giant monster tick.
Yeah.
And he makes pretty short work of them. So I guess in a way, Carlton like ends up actually, in a way, getting something out of the whole mess. I mean, he ends up killing the guys who beat the crap out of him. So even though it was in tick form.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that was a pretty cool scene. I wasn't expecting that.
I wasn't either.
Yeah.
Giant ass tick.
I totally wasn't expecting that either. And that actually, even though I hated the fact that character died so horribly, that actually might have been my favorite scene.
Yeah, it was done really well.
Yeah. And the gore looked pretty juicy.
Oh yeah, his head splitting,
Yeah.
splitting open.
There's some bones and some guts. It was pretty gnarly. And also, I always enjoy films that sort of take place in the wilderness too. I must admit, especially when they're horror films. So, because again, like the horror of nature, like it does exist, you know.
Yeah.
So
Basic cabin in the woods trope.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Can't beat it.
yeah. I'd say it's a pretty good cabin in the woods movie. You know, even though there's not that many deaths, and the cabin aspect doesn't even really come into play until the last 20 minutes, but still. You know, they don't spend much time inside, so.
I don't like creatures that burrow under skin either. That's what roast me.
Oh yeah,
Like I hated watching that shit. Like,
that was gross. Yeah.
in The Mummy, I fucking hate the scenes with the scarabs.
Oh
I
yeah.
can't watch
When
that shit.
that one guy
I'm
gets
like, oh.
like you see the bulge in his head or whatever.
Can't
That
do
was yeah.
And that reminded me of this. I was like, no, that's.
Yeah.
I hate ticks so much.
Yeah. I don't blame you. They're pretty gnarly, you know. I think the only reason I don't hate ticks anymore is just because I'm so used to them. Like, and I mean, I get ticks on my legs every year, because I'm always outdoors and I live in a location that happens to have a lot of ticks, unfortunately. But I mean, yeah, I don't know. I guess for me, like, I'm thankful that actual ticks aren't like the ticks in this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, because these things they're pretty deadly. I'm glad I watched it. I would watch it again.
Yeah.
Very entertaining. So
Yeah. Seth Green was good in it too.
yeah.
I was wary.
Yeah, no, Seth Green was actually pretty entertaining. You know, he showed some pretty decent acting confidence, I felt, in playing a character that didn't really need to be played very well. I mean, quite frankly. I mean, I've seen characters like his in other movies that were played by the most pedestrian type of actors you can imagine. And you know, Seth Green actually, you know, does something with it, which is good. He shows some personality, some early promise, as some people like to say.
Yeah.
You know, and he was in some movies before this, but I mean, that was when he was like a child actor. When he was in like Radio Days, and he was in like the Hotel New Hampshire, and I think he was in something else too. But you know, so it's kind of cool to see this, knowing that like he is like maturing as an actor and stuff. So. Yeah, I don't know. So what would you guys give it on a scale of 1 to 5?
I gave it a 3.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'd give it about a 3 as well.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna give it, a 3.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty I was pleasantly surprised. I thought I was gonna hate it.
Yeah.
From the first 20-30 minutes, I was like, no, this is not. Oh, I could almost not watch.
Yeah.
But then it got better. It got more actiony instead of gross.
Yeah. Yeah.
So-
Overall, pretty solid B movie. You know, pretty entertaining. Some good makeup. Good effects. Nothing super exceptional about it, but definitely memorable. And yeah, satisfying for sure. So.
Yeah.
All right, so my pick was Mindwarp, which might be the bleakest film we've seen on this show so far, unless you count Things. But I mean, Mindwarp is a movie I've kind of known about for a while because, like, I've been a big Bruce Campbell fan, and this one wasn't actually available on Blu-ray or DVD until relatively recently, and I picked it up not that long ago, and I was like, oh, Mindwarp, I've been meaning to watch this one because it was a movie that I'd heard about, and it was a Bruce Campbell movie that he did before Army of Darkness, so it was kind of before he was in like stuff like Briscoe County Jr. and like before he kind of became more of a household name, and I heard that it was a science fiction film, and I was curious about that. And so I watched it, and the first 20 minutes I would say were a science fiction film for sure. It pretty much takes place sort of in this futuristic sort of world in which basically there's just this sort of society of people who live underground who use these dream machines, and they basically can just spend all their time using these machines and having fun within these sort of various dreamscapes that they can but it takes place in this future where like the population is pretty much it's depleted quite a bit. Nobody's bothering to have kids anymore. Pretty much everybody's just spending their time sleeping, and then occasionally getting up and taking care of themselves and then going back to bed. And the main character is this woman, Judy, I think her name is, who doesn't really like spending all of her time dreaming. She wants to know what the real world feels like and what it feels like to be outside of this whole sort of pleasure dome, I guess I would describe it as being. So she starts messing around with the mainframe, and the operating system basically decides to boot her out. And then it kind of shifts and becomes a totally different movie. Suddenly it's she's in the real world, and it's post-apocalyptic. There's mutated cannibals everywhere. And eventually she meets up with Bruce Campbell's character, who's a scavenger. And actually, Bruce Campbell's pretty cool in this movie. And, one of the things I knew about this film going in was that Bruce Campbell, makes a pretty formidable action hero. And in this movie, he does a pretty good job. It's not as good a performance it's not physically as good a performance as what he does in the Evil Dead movies, but still like better than what you would expect. Given that the character is not really all that fleshed out, but he's one of the only survivors of this sort of cannibalistic mutated Holocaust. And she comes into contact with him. They kind of pair up. They're in survival mode for a while. They end up basically becoming an item. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, the film shifts gears again. The mutated cannibals kidnap them, in the old like sack over the bodies trick, And then the final act of this film is kind of where we get into some pretty sketchy territory. And by sketchy, I mean like basically a horror movie, which was not what I expected this movie to be. And I don't know how to feel about it.
I can tell you how I did not like this movie.
Yeah.
At all, really.
Yeah.
Like Bruce Campbell was great, but like I did not like this movie. I was like kind of upset the entire time watching it.
Yeah.
It was just like it didn't like it may have been predating some of the other movies we've seen but it had all those same kind of apocalyptic tropes of people living fucking underground, mutants, people plugging in.
Yeah.
It felt a lot like Circuitry Man that we saw.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, you're hitting those kind of hard to live on the outside, and there's mutants.
Yeah.
like Mad Max kind of shit. It
Yeah.
didn't really feel all that original.
Yeah,
So it's just like I've seen it. Maybe this was like in '91.
I think so.
something.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it came before all those or any. Mad Max was in the '80s, right?
Yeah. Well, the first Mad Max was '79, and then Road Warrior was early '80s, and Beyond Thunderdome was also in the '80s as well. So
I mean, it didn't feel all that. It just kind of felt like it was playing off those kind of movies a lot.
yeah.
And I'm assuming this came before The Matrix.
Yeah.
So it had that plug and play shit.
Yeah. It was pre-Matrix. Yeah.
I don't know if The Matrix copied that or just was a coincidence.
I mean, I like to think that The Matrix was sort of following more in the footsteps of like Ghost in the Shell and things like that,
makes
which
more
are
sense,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, this movie, it's very clear that they don't have much of a budget to work with. And so they make the most that they can out of these sort of desert landscapes and stuff. And actually, there were some pretty creepy ideas, in my opinion. The whole because they can't bury people anymore, because if they do, like, the mutated cannibals will feast off of them. So instead, they bury people above ground on these crosses, which, while I was watching it, like, it didn't really strike me at first, but then, like, the more I thought about it, the more, like, just creeped out by that idea I was, because I love cemeteries. I've been to so many cemeteries, and then it just got me thinking about, like, what cemeteries would be like if everybody wasn't actually buried, but just, like, I don't know, that just creeped me out. That was a weird concept for me.
Yeah.
What did you think of it?
Thought it was okay. Like you said, it was pretty bleak.
Yeah.
You were talking about the landscape. That confused me because,
Yeah.
like, she woke up, it looked like she was in a desert.
Yeah.
And then there was snow, and then they were in the woods, and then they were near the ocean.
I was so confused.
Yeah, they spend a lot of time outdoors, and there's a surprising amount of variety still in this world of degradation and desolation. The shift that it takes kind of toward the end, which pretty much everything that happens at the end of the film takes place underground, and that's when new characters suddenly start getting introduced. And one of the characters that gets introduced is her father, who is played by Angus Scrimm of Phantasm fame, who plays the tall man in those movies. And I found him pretty creepy in this movie, to be honest.
He wanted to bone his daughter.
Yeah.
He wanted to reproduce with her.
Which was terrifying. And
God damn it.
and I totally didn't think the film would go in that direction.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, okay then.
Like, suddenly it goes into very, like, hellish, almost like, not maybe like Event Horizon or Hellraiser, but like, I don't know, just sort of primordial sort of territory involving, like, human sacrifices and like blood orgies or whatever. And there's, like, even, like you mentioned, the whole bug thing. There's even, something involving, like, bugs. I mean, it goes into pretty hardcore horror territory in the end. And it felt so odd compared to the rest of the film. Like I wasn't sure what direction the film was going to go in. When I watched it, when I chose this movie, I was sort of picturing something like virtual reality or something. Like, I thought that this would be more a movie about people, like, getting into, like, a virtual reality world and like having some kind of thing going, like Tron or something. That's what I thought that this movie was going to be.
Yeah.
And it almost feels like it's headed in that direction at first until it doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And that's when I realized that the movie was produced by Fangoria, and then it all made sense.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
The poster's very misleading with the, you've seen it, yeah.
Yeah, the lightning bolt on the face.
Yeah.
It's like somebody jacking in.
Yeah.
Like the poster, you'd think by the poster that this was going to be more of a science fiction film that it actually ended up being. So the advertising for this film is not so good. It doesn't really paint an accurate portrayal of what the film is. the movie is a bit more. It's really more of a freakish horror show, I'd say, with really outrageous sort of makeup effects and gore. That's pretty much what it ends up sort of amounting to. I'd say overall, like, I don't know if I liked it or not, but I definitely was interested, I guess, in where it would lead. And I thought it went in at least an unexpected sort of direction, I guess. And then, of course, the way it ends, it turns out it is a dream.
Fucking dumb.
Which
I called it from the start.
I knew it was coming.
This is all
as well.
going to take place in the.
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty obvious, like, from the beginning that was the direction it was going to go in.
Like, oh, of course.
Yeah.
Of course. It's
And-
goddamn Jacob's Ladder.
Yeah, and the story, it gets so weird. Like, eventually it's like, of course it's a dream, you know? Like,
yeah.
and so...
Because Bruce Campbell starts going insane for no reason.
Well,
Yeah, like-
it's I think it was because of the bugs, right? Like, weren't
I
they...
just-
like-
Yeah.
I just thought it was because of the dream starting to turn on her.
Yeah, well, I guess that would make sense. But yeah, like he gets locked in a cage, and these bugs get into his system, and they're supposed to lay eggs or whatever, and it's supposed to give the people like these incredible feelings of pleasure and all this stuff, and so that's kind of what ends up happening with him, and then from then on out he basically is like out for blood, and is sort of like basically turns against the main character. Yeah, there's a lot of, I don't know, there's a lot that happens in the second half of the movie. I couldn't even really begin to summarize. And it all happens relatively fast too. At one point, I think Bruce Campbell was like a slave miner or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yep.
it just, I don't know, it just gets so random and strange, you know. There's a part where they're drinking blood out of skulls.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So gross. And then at the end, like, she discovers that it's all a dream, that it was all a program, and that the person who's like the operating system who is talking to her or whatever, it turns out it's her father. I think is kind of what we're supposed to. Yeah. And
He's the operator or whatever. Yeah.
yeah. And so basically she's just doomed to live in this dreamscape, you know?
It was a test.
Yeah.
So because he was testing her to make sure she was capable of being the next operator.
Yeah.
Apparently, and she was. And
Yeah.
then at the end, she becomes it.
Which
Like,
is the exact opposite of what she wanted at the beginning of the
I'm like,
movie.
What the fuck?
I guess.
Didn't
then-
want this. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And didn't she wake up like again?
Yeah.
It showed her father's like ashes or whatever or something.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, at the very end, that
So I don't know which ending actually happened or not, but
I mean, my guess is that that last part was supposed to be something that she was. It was like, because throughout the whole movie they're like talking about her like, or well, not throughout the whole movie, but at the beginning of the movie, and then later on in the movie, like they're talking about her dad and how like he like left the world or whatever.
disappeared.
Yeah. And so at the end, it was basically her just assuming his identity, I guess. I don't know. That's kind of a messed up idea, but
Mhm.
definitely different. I'm glad I finally saw it because it's a movie that's been on my radar for at least a decade. Did it live up to my expectations? I mean, I don't know. I didn't really have any expectations, so I mean, I guess it did. I'd probably give it a 3 because even though I kind of have mixed feelings about the experience of the film itself, I still found it interesting. You know?
I gave it a 2. I still don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Like there was parts I liked, there was parts I didn't like.
Yeah. I'm leaning toward a 2, but I think I'm gonna go with a 3. ultimately.
I mean, I didn't have any expectations because I didn't really know what it was except for a Bruce Campbell movie, and it was worse than I thought it was gonna be, even though I had no expectations.
Yeah.
Like the ending, that it was a dream, just ruined the whole. Like, it's just so like, god damn it!
It was really
I
predictable.
was just like, it's fucking dumb.
Yeah. It actually would have been more interesting if they hadn't gone in that direction.
Yeah.
Like maybe after that she killed the character and then she assumes the throne or whatever, the bone throne. Maybe that would have been a more interesting ending.
Yeah, and I was like, the only part I liked was Bruce Campbell, really, of the entire movie, and it just diminished his entire character because it was fake.
Yeah.
So I was just like, well, that was fucking stupid.
Yeah.
So the entire movie was fucking stupid, in my opinion. I'd give it a 1, honestly, just because the ending angered me.
Yeah.
Of it just being predictable, and then also it just wasn't that original. Like,
Yeah.
I felt like I've seen, it's like a movie that's been just mashed up, like 3 different movies mashed up into one that we've seen on this podcast before. So I mean, like, yeah, I was not a fan.
Yeah. Yeah, I think its ambitions ended up outweighing its quality ultimately. I think it wanted to be more than it was, but just didn't really have the money. I mean, I think pretty much most of the budget went to the makeup. So, but if you like blood, there's a lot of it in this movie.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So next time, I guess so. We're continuing with the '90s theme, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So do either of you have choices?
Yeah, I got one.
Yeah. Should I say what mine is first? Or?
Sure.
All right. Well, I'm choosing Brain Scan. And the reason I'm choosing it, to be honest, is because
double feature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Blu-ray I have for Mindwarp comes with Brain Scan, so
I almost bought it. Yeah. And I'm probably going to buy it.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I bought it is because they were both movies I hadn't seen, and they both seemed like movies that would be interesting to do on the show. So I just got it. And Brain Scan has Edward Furlong in it, so I'm like, could be good, I guess.
I thought we watched it. I think was it with you or Avery that I've seen that? Because I have seen it.
I haven't.
Okay, so that was Avery then.
Okay. When was the last time you saw it?
I was in high school.
Oh, cool.
So I remember nothing about it.
Excellent. All right, yeah, Brain Scan. Let's do it.
Okay, my choice is Suburban Commando.
Excellent. All right, cool.
I have seen that, but it was in the 90s, so.
Yeah, I haven't seen it since I was, I think, 7. So.
And then my choice is Chairman of the Board.
Yeah! Chairman of the Board.
Nice.
We're going to carrot top it up in this house. All right, cool. Well, any other thoughts or anything, you guys? Anything on your minds, or you good?
I think I'm good.
Cool. That about does it.
Excellent. All right. Well, until what was I gonna? There was something. Oh yeah. I forgot. I told somebody I was gonna give them a shout out. This very intelligent gentleman I know named Jaden told me that he would subscribe to us. So shout out to him. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Until next time, have a good night and peace.
We'll be back.
Good night.